Without a doubt, Judge Dredd is one of the best comic book heroes of all time. This judge, jury, and executioner patrols the futuristic Megacity 1 and nails bad guys without a second thought. If you are on the wrong side of the law, consider yourself a goner. Now, he has many amazingly terrifying enemies like Judge Death, who we explored in one of our videos. But we do not know a lot about this man's family. Who are Dredd's parents? Does he have brothers or other relatives? Well, that's what we're here to find out. So let's explore the 7 closest family members of Judge Dredd. Let's begin. Before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Eustace Fargo, clone father. So Eustace Fargo and his twin brother Ephraim were born on January 9th, 1999, but Fargo's tombstone says 2001 to 2051. Why the mix-up? Well, nobody really knows for sure, but Judge Dredd once guessed that Fargo probably wanted to be seen as a 21st century guy. Yep, Fargo wanted to be Gen Z. Fargo wasn't just any dude, he was super smart, graduating from Harvard with a law degree. By 2027, he was already shaking things up in politics and was also appointed by President Thomas Gurney to tackle the crazy gang violence between Washington and New York. This area would later become the infamous or legendary, depending on your perspective, Megacity 1. After an Olympus Has Fallen-like wild incident where gangs stormed the White House and got off scot-free, Fargo pitched this radical idea of replacing the due process of law with the absolute rule of law. The government agreed and created a new force, the judges, who could dish out justice on the spot. They became the judge, jury, and executioner all at once. Congress wasn't feeling it at first, but after the next election, things changed big time, and Gurney was back in charge. By 2031, the judges hit the streets initially as a beefed-up police force, but they quickly started to rival Congress in power. Fargo saw the birth of the ISO block system, which cut through red tape and corruption like a hot knife in butter. In the 2040s, Fargo was behind the creation of his early Psi division. But later in his life, Fargo's wife cheated on him with a friend, and Fargo attempted suicide, but could only succeed in getting into a comatose state. He was later put on life support, and the Justice Department told everyone that Fargo went down valiantly during a violent fight with the bad guys. In 2070, things got really wild. President Robert L. Booth kicked off the atomic wars, and the judges had to step up big time to run the megacities. Fargo, who everyone thought was dead, was actually brought back and made stable. He met his clones, Rico Dredd and Joseph Dredd, and started advising the chief judge on the down low. But by 2071, Fargo was losing it mentally. He started doubting the whole judge system, feeling down about how his death was fake and how the judges turned America into a dictatorship. Rico Dredd, clone brother. Rico, one of the original judge clones, was cut from the same cloth as Fargo. At the Academy of Law, this guy was a total overachiever, outshining even his clone brother. He graduated top of their class in 2079, with Joe right behind him. Rico was the kind of bro who had Joe's back in class and helped him through the tough times. As brothers, they were super tight, even having to fend off other cadets who got jealous of their special status. When the atomic wars of 2070 hit Megacity 1, Rico was all unimaginably enthusiastic and eager, and even asked the older cadets to let him join them in cleaning the streets of Megacity 1. Both Rico and Joe did some fantastic work, and even got picked for the big-time mission to kick President Booth out of the White House, the guy who basically started the whole war mess. But things did not remain nice for him for long. After getting hurt on a training mission in the Cursed Earth, he started changing, and not for the better. He got more aggressive and shady, hell-bent on proving he was better than Joe. Post-graduation, Rico went off the rails, getting his hands dirty with all sorts of crimes, like extortion, assault, and racketeering. Joe figured it might be because of some nasty radiation Rico caught in the Cursed Earth. Rico, though, didn't buy the radiation story. In his eyes, the Justice Department was a joke, so why not make some extra cash on the side? He started letting gangs slide as long as they kept it under the radar, and took bribes from the mob for letting guilty folk walk free. His crime spree escalated to running blackmail ops, protection rackets, killing surrendered perps, and forcing confessions out of innocent people. He was nailing a lot of cases, and the Justice Department didn't sniff around him too much, but they did not know his methods. Originally, Rico did have a solid sense of justice and was tight with Joe, but as he got older, his moral compass went haywire. Judge Kraken, clone brother. So Kraken was basically Judge Dredd's younger clone brother, both whipped up from the same DNA of Eustace T. Fargo. But Kraken started off not as a judge, but as a member of the Judah. These guys were a bunch of rogue clones cooked up by the off-the-rails judge Morton Judd. They were in a secret base inside Ayers Rock until 2110, when Judge decided to crash the Grand Hall of Justice party with teleporters, and all with the single aim of taking over Megacity 1. Dredd, being the legend he is, shut down the party real quick and took out most of the clone army. Kraken got nabbed, but while the other Judah guys either got the axe or choked out themselves, Kraken was the lone survivor. Later, Kraken had to go through this intense brainwashing detox to shake off his Judah loyalty. After that, he was trained to be a judge. Chief Judge Silver had this plan to eventually replace Dredd with Kraken, seeing as Dredd was getting a bit jaded with the whole Justice Department scene. Things got real when Dredd had to babysit Kraken, now a rookie judge, see if he was ready for the big league. Kraken was killing it, outshining even Dredd. But then he made a cocky remark about Dredd being an old-timer in his way. Dredd, not thrilled, flunked Kraken, which basically put him back on death row for his Judah days. Right after this, Dredd quits the Justice Department and heads off into the Cursed Earth Desert. Meanwhile, Silver gave Kraken one last shot, and he was made a full judge. Vienna, niece. Vienna is the daughter of a journalist and Rico. Her mom got busted by Dredd himself and didn't make it out of the ISO cubes. Vienna ended up with Mrs. Pasternak, an elderly guardian. As a kid, Vienna was very fond of her Uncle Dredd, but she didn't know he killed her dad. When this tech whiz Harry Carmen, who had beef with Dredd for locking him up, kidnapped her, Dredd saved her, but Carmen told her about her dad. Vienna was cool about it, but Dredd decided to keep his distance for her safety. 23 years later, Vienna grew up to become a stage actress in Sit. She didn't see Dredd in all that time. She came to Megacity 1 for a gig, and they had a bit of a tense reunion. The next year, Vienna got snatched by a Satanist group in Sit. The aim was to lure Dredd. Feeling guilty, Dredd brought her back to Megacity 1 for better protection. Vienna also crossed paths with the second Rico, kind of like a brother to her. Rico was helping another Dredd clone, Dolman, figure out his life. He introduced Dolman to Vienna, and she helped Dolman decide to quit the Justice Department. In 2126, during the Total War bombing, she almost got caught in a nuclear blast, and Dredd saved her, choosing family over duty. He tried to quit after that, but Chief Judge Hershey talked him out of it. Vienna, though, was done with the family drama and cut ties with Dredd. But later she got into more trouble when East Meg 2's Anatoly Kazan targeted her to get at Dredd. An assassin Pasha got close to her, which led to her abduction and death of two of her friends. In the end, Dredd came to the rescue again, and Vienna showed she had some of her dad's fighting chops, taking down a guard while handcuffed. Judge Rico, clone. So Judge Rico is basically a clone of the same DNA as Judge Dredd, part of the whole Eustace T. Fargo lineage. So he is not to be confused with Rico Dredd. When Judge Rico first showed up, there were already like 4 other Fargo clones around in Megacity 1 Justice Department. When it was time for him to graduate from the Academy of Law, he chose the name Rico. No last name, just Rico. Of course, it was a nod to the late Rico Dredd, and this Rico aimed to give the name a bit of redemption. During the Dredd Angel saga, Megacity 1 was playing nice with Texas City, sending over babies with top-notch genes. Rico, who didn't have a name back then, was one of these kiddos. But things got messy when the hover freighter carrying them got hijacked by mutants mid-flight. Judge Dredd and the lobotomized mean machine Angel tracked down the babies. They managed to find them, but Angel's surgery started to fail, and he turned on Dredd. Dredd handled it though, and got the babies safely to Texas City. In the post-Necropolis times, our grown-up clone, now called Dredd, was sent back to Megacity 1. The judge ranks were thin, so they needed fresh blood. At the academy, he mentored another clone, Cadet Dolman, who was also from the Fargo line. Graduation day came, and who better to test them than Judge Dredd himself? As they patrolled the city, they chatted about stuff like Rico Dredd and Judge Kraken, and whether their clone DNA made them prone to going off the rails. Dredd shared his own experiences growing up with Rico, easing the young clone's worries. Cadet Dredd passed with flying colors and decided to stick with the surname Rico, both to avoid confusion at dispatch and to honor the original Rico Dredd. Dolmen, clone. Dolmen, another clone of the legendary Judge Dredd, was cooked up to join the ranks of the judges. He was nailing it at the Academy of Law, but the guy decided that being a judge wasn't his cup of tea. He wanted to carve out his own path, but there was a catch. Since he's a Dredd lookalike and Dredd's got a laundry list of enemies, Dolmen had to get a face change for safety reasons before he could bounce from the Academy. After that, he joined the Space Corps, but he didn't simply vanish into space. Dolmen still swings by Megacity 1 now and then, keeping him in touch with Dredd's niece, Vienna. Judge Anderson, love interest. Judge Cassandra Anderson is a big deal in the Justice Department's Psi division. She's got this prophetic ability, can sense danger before it hits, and even peek into people's minds. As a kid, her psychic skills were so off the charts that Psi division scooped her up and whisked her away from some intense training at the Academy of Law. Anderson is renowned for her skills, and because she is not afraid to call out the flaws in Megacity 1's judicial system. Despite her critiques, they can't afford to lose her. She's got a sense of humor that's a breath of fresh air compared to someone like Dredd, but she's as tough and determined as they come, often teaming up with Dredd. Her first big moment was during the Judge Death saga. This guy was a twisted version of a Megacity 1 judge who thought all living beings were guilty since only the living can commit crimes. Anderson was key in tracking him down and revealing his story to Dredd. When they finally cornered Judge Death, Anderson trapped his spirit in her mind after his body got destroyed. To keep him from breaking out, she got herself encased in this Boeing plastic, ending up in a stasis bubble in the Hall of Heroes. We have done plenty of other videos on Judge Dredd and Judge Death. If you have reached this point in the video, I'm sure you'd be interested to know more. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave and like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.